Hello, Tony here again on the Experimental Sim Avionics YouTube channel, and we're back looking at another panel set, this time for the King Air 350. Couple of, well, I say more than a couple actually. Couple of different variants, I think, is what I was going to start off by saying, for the King Air 350 from Blacksquare, obviously the analog version. And there's also a King Air 350 from Airfoil Labs for Xplane. So it covers both of those two aircraft, but there's many different panel sets because there are some different options. So the Xplane one is only really the GPS, which is like some GNS radio variant. But the Blacksquare one does come with about 6 different options of avionics, radio combinations and whatnot. So all of those are catered for. So there's a choice of different panel sets for the Microsoft Blacksquare aircraft, 1 through 6 variants, starting from just some basic nav comms going up to like GTNs and whatnot, as you will undoubtedly see here today with the version that I've chosen. I've chosen panel version number 6, which is the GTN 750 and the GNS 530 combination. Bit of a weird combination, but that's one of the combinations in the simulated aircraft. So that's the one that we've got. So I guess we ought to take a look at those panels, and here they are. Well, at least here's panel variant 6. We're in Microsoft Flight Sim, but the Xplane version is very similar to this. The PFD and MFD are streamed in Xplane 12, and they're like electronic PFD MFD, so slightly different variant, but most of the other instrumentation is the same or very similar. So in this particular one that we're looking at today, you can see it's kind of an old school King Air cockpit, just what you're used to in the Blacksquare aircraft. Lots of analog engine instruments there. Your PFD and MFD, your rest of your flight instruments, your altimeter, your airspeed, VSI, there's an RMI there, there's a DME indicator, there's a CDI for your number 2 nav, some gyro slaving instruments, a clock, turn and slip, and annunciators and master warning and caution and oxygen handles and all sorts of equipment and controls. The right side panel, now this is quite a busy aircraft. I think this was obviously King Air's a reasonable size as well, but they do fit an awful lot, and they've got quite a lot of controls and switches and whatnot in the pedestal and the overhead area. So it's quite busy panel sets, these, in terms of all the extra instruments that are needed for those popped up areas. So on the left side panel, we start with the usual compass that you're probably used to if you've seen any of these panel showcases before. But on this left side panel, we've also got so there's a fuel panel mounted on the left side wall, just next to the pilot's sort of left elbow, and so there's the 2 fuel gauges and the switches for the control of the fuel system. And then below that is the main switch panel. So there's a big switch panel sort of underneath the yoke, or that wraps sort of either side of the yoke, with all the switches, or not all the switches, but a lot of the switches. And then going over to the right side panel, we've got another one for the rest of the switches that carry over onto the right hand side panel. And of course the overhead panel itself, which is predominantly lighting and electrical related equipment. And then the right hand side panel makes up most of the more frequently used items. So you got your Navcom radios there. There's an ADF and a transponder down the bottom. There's the audio section at the very top with the altitude selector sitting in the middle there at the top. And then on the right hand side of this panel, this is kind of mainly a lot of the stuff that's in the central area, the pedestal, or on the right hand side panel. So you've got a rad out indicator over there, you've got your trim, your aileron and rudder trim indications, and there's lots of little analog supplementary type instruments. So you've got flat position, cabin VSI, cabin differential, pressure, altitude, prop amps, there's hobs, there's oxygen pressure, there's cabin temperature, there's gyro suction, and there's pneumatic pressure. So lots of lots of other supplementary instruments. There's already all the engine instrumentation gauges, but those as well. So yeah, the analog King Air's got lots of separate gauges. So all of those have been done. There's a pitot static at the very top there, and then above those are the engine fire annunciations and switches. And then in the central sort of area there, you've got the main, the master and warning caution system is split into two annunciator panels. So all the warnings, all the red ones, are on one panel, sort of up the top of the glare shield. And that's the top panel you see in that little stack there. And then the cautions and the advisories are down on the lower panel, and that's at the very bottom of that stack there. And that was quite busy to get that all to fit in and all fit on the panel, and I didn't really want to put that on a pop-out one. So unfortunately the caution one, because there's more of them, it is a bit hard to read them sometimes. I mean, you can see when one comes on, but you can't always see what it is without sort of getting up reasonably close to it. So what I've done with that is, when you touch on the area in and around the annunciator, they're not buttons as such, but just to try and make them a bit more readable, you can touch on the actual annunciation and it will make it a little a fair bit bigger. So you can actually read, if you're interested in reading what it is, but you'll get to learn what they are anyway in terms of their position and the colour and whatnot. But at least you just have a glance over. If it's black, you're all good. If there's any that are on, then obviously you may need to be aware of what they might be. But generally in flight, they will normally mostly always be off. And then in between the two annunciation panels, you've got a couple of autopilot panels. So the top one is the mode selection, effectively, that you would see on any autopilot. So you can see you've got heading, nav, indicated airspeed, VS modes, all the other various bits and pieces. And then below that, also part of the autopilot, is is some other controls. I mean, both of these have got an annunciation strip running across the top of them, so you can see there's like a little letterbox dark strip running across the top. You'll see when we get it powered up. But there's annunciations on both of these, just to let you know what mode you're in or whatnot. So the lower panel is more of an autopilot on off, engage the yaw damper or not, and a couple of other little modes, the up down selection for say your VS modes, etc. And then there's like a little turn wheel as well in the middle there. And then below that, the last little instrument in that sort of stack, if you will, is the cabin pressurization panel. So you've got your dump switch. There's a not really related to cabin pressurization, but it's on that panel, rudder boost and electric trim enable switches, and then the pressurization stuff itself, the altitude selection knob, the rate knob, etc. For, you know, nothing different that you may not be used to if you've flown or operated any aircraft that's got one of these older style pressurization systems, not like the new aircraft that tend to have it automated, where you just you know, tell it where you're going to, or in some cases even takes it from the flight plan and kind of you just leave it in auto mode most of the time. But these older aircraft tend to have a more hands-on manual thing, so you have to dial in the altitudes and you can change the rates as well, and it's got some instrumentation, as we saw with the gauges there, for keeping an eye and monitoring on what that system is particularly doing. Anyway, so as you saw, they're quite quite a bit. It's taken quite a bit of time, obviously, to get through all that. The switch panels was a hell of a lot of work. They don't look it, but behind the scenes there's a hell of a lot going on with all the variables and whatnot. So yeah, quite a lot of work to create all of the King Air, as it was with the previous one that I did, the PC12. That was also quite a bit of work. Two reasonably complex aeroplanes, and obviously from two developers that tend not to leave any stone unturned in terms of, you know, operating control. So everything was kind of operating, so you kind of have to operate it from your air manager panels, and therefore you need to do work on those items. So let's get our switch panel up then, and make sure. We'll start by putting the external power on. We'll get the battery on. Master warning and caution will acknowledge. You see, you get the warning panel up there, and the warning and the caution panels a little bit further down. So as I was explaining earlier, you can touch on one of those and you can see you can get a bigger version of what they are if you wanted to read one. Normally at the start, obviously there's several on, but during flight there would only ever be, you know, the odd one or so on, so it wouldn't be as a common thing, if you like, to actually need to go over there and do that. So I'll have to remember, I've not flown the aircraft in a few weeks, so I've been doing a lot of testing on the panels, and I've been doing a fair bit of flying with them, but recently I've only just been tinkering on a few little items. I made a list of things to fix up, so I've not actually flown the aircraft that much recently, so we'll have to do a lot of this from memory in terms of what we need here. Just doing a quick scan. We'll get that one normal. We'll stick our beacon light on. The bleeds will need to come on in a minute. Okay. So we'll try by starting the right engine. So we're watching a little bit awkward here because we've got the NG or prop RPM. There is the 4th gauge down, so obviously the one on the right for the right engine, so we can see that there. So we're again similar to starting any turbine, we're just waiting until that NG comes up and stabilizes. It's normally, depending on the aircraft, somewhere between about 12 or 20%. There you go. Up to about 20%, then we'll put the fuel in, and then we'll just keep an eye on the ITT there, make sure it doesn't go above the start line. It doesn't. Start looks like it's about 1,000 degrees there, and then making sure that the NG and the oil pressure at the bottom there is coming up nicely. Just give you a little bit more volume there. Hopefully that's not too loud. Okay, so we'll bring our switch panel back up, then we'll make sure we switch that right generator on. Should have switched that switch off, and we'll go for the left engine. So same procedure. Oh, the only trouble is, I just realised this is a twin, isn't it? See, yeah, we got a hot start there. Do you see that? Hot start on the left engine. Luckily, I think I turned the failures off before I started this. But yeah, something you have to be careful of. You do need a separate condition lever mapped, and I didn't have one here when I set up for this, so I only had the one, so I'd already put it in. The way around that, of course, if you can't get over that, is you have to sort of cheat a little bit and start both engines at the same time, which you would never normally do. Too much drain on the electrical system. But because the fuel was already in, that's why we got a hot start. So you can see that's modelled in the aircraft. I will actually make sure that that engine is okay in a minute. So we'll put the generator on there. We can bring the avionics on as well now. We'll turn the external power off. We don't need that on anymore. We'll arm the auto feather. So we can check see left in no, so that it wasn't the left engine condition is down at 60% after that start, so we can repair the left engine with that button there we go. So that's one thing to be aware of, keeps you on your toes. It does pay to have all of the essential engine levers mapped individually. Right, we'll bring the bleeds on. And looks like the AC bus as well, forgot to turn them on. Get those annunciations off, right, okay. So we've got no more reds. What we got here in terms of it says the battery tie is open. Why is it saying that? Oh yeah, and then we need the rudder boost on, L trim on. I'm not actually sure why that battery tie light is on. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I'm hoping that's going to go out, but if not, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Not for the purposes of this anyway. We're only going to go literally around the corner. Okay. One thing I will try. I just I thought I turned failures off. Reset all failures. No failures there. And then unless it failed again, reset all failures. Yeah, okay, so it's not a failure. It must be something I'm doing, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. So I didn't say, or at least I don't remember saying, we're in Wichita, Kansas. And it's an area in the world that's very or at least was back in the day, densely populated with a lot of aircraft related development and manufacture. Lots of component manufacturers are based in Wichita, aircraft manufacturers as well. And so prudent that we come here to have a quick fly in the King Air and have a look at these air manager panels for it. Right, so we'll get our strobe on, our landing lights. Well, let's stick our pitos on just for the sake of it. The temperature's reasonably high, so we probably don't need it, but we'll put them on. reasonably short one-way. Doesn't look that long from here, but we'll see. Positive rate, gear up. Didn't use any flat there for that takeoff. Looks like we're picking something up on the radio there. So you can see you get a rad out display on the top right corner of the PFD there. And you can kind of see the navigation, or at least the CDI needle on the HSI there in operation. Just because I didn't do that on purpose, some local frequencies obviously we're tuned into here. I think what we'll do is we'll get the altitude dialed in at just say 5,000 feet initially. Won't have to worry about too much with the pressurization. And we'll get the autopilot on. We'll get a heading mode on. So there we go, leveled out at 5,000 feet. Just stable there. We'll probably switch nav mode on as well in a bit. Get onto that little GPS track that we've put in there. Would help if we were on GPS. And then you'll see. Hopefully it should find its way on there at a reasonably narrow intercept. Give us a chance to have a little talk about or a little bit more of a talk about these panels. So you can see now we're up in the air and things are sort of working. The engine gauge operation, they're just obviously duplicates of one another there for different engines. You've got your oxygen handles on the bottom side, either side of those engine gauge for the crew and for the passengers. There's a trim indicator just to the left of those engine gauges, and then like I was talking about at the very beginning, but obviously you can see them in operation a little bit better now. You've got the DME indicator down on the left hand side there. You get the different displays. You can choose distance or time, or you get the station ID. And then above that, the RMI. You can switch between VOR or ADF as a source. We captured that nav. We're looking all right on that nav now, yeah. And then the airspeed above that with a dynamic barber pole, so that will adjust its speed based on altitude, just like the real one does. And then just some annunciations. You've got your master warning and cautions above those, and there's some other little annunciation panels you can see just to the left of that and above the altimeter on the just on the other side. Just mirror the ones that are in the aircraft for various different functions. Then on to the left of the altimeter, there's a fast direct button, an analog clock, a turn and slip below that, a little 2-inch one, and then a gyro slaving module, so you can go into DG mode and then just use the buttons to offset. You can see the HSI rows is moving there based on whatever the offset is, if you've got any drift, or you can just go back into slaving mode. Needle should be in the middle if that's working okay. Then you have the parking brake at the very bottom and a free air temperature gauge, so you can choose Celsius or Fahrenheit on that. Little GPS annunciation panel there, and selection buttons for your CDI source over on your primary navigator, which in this case is the GTN. And then in the middle, your PFD HSI. We talked about them a little bit already. You can see it's they've got a few little displays on there. So you've got like a DME readout on there, a bit like you've got the DME display to the left there at the very top. They're dashed out at the moment because we're not tuned into anything. Same with the rad out at the top. If you're above 2,500 feet on the rad out display, it will just dash out, or if it's invalid for any reason. And then you got the little course indication in the bottom right hand corner of the HSI there that you can control with the course knob here. There you go. And you can choose the different modes you see there on that top right display. We had it on time to go, which is and speed, which is a DME function, or you got elapsed time there. You got a little elapsed time button there. You can set that off and have a little timer type function if you need to. Then the altimeter is fairly straightforward, probably one that you've seen before. It's got a nice rolling drum there with the altitude displayed and a single needle, just to give you the sense of the direction and speed of change. A VSI below that, again fairly standard stuff, and a CDI for your nav2 source. So that'll be the one that's tuned into your whatever you've got as your nav2 source. In this case, it's the 530. And then over on the other side, the right hand side panel, well, we did speak quite a bit about that before. Obviously you've got the weather radar, so it's got the functions. You probably saw me using it at the beginning while we were just looking at those couple of little things, but you can toggle through the Blacksquare incorporated failure system in there with the mode switch. and then you obviously have the ability to turn on or test the weather radar function itself, or turn it off into standby mode. And the buttons work as well, so you can mess around with the tilt, for instance, or the gain, and the different modes on those buttons. So all of those operate just like the buttons would do in the virtual cockpit. The little radios at the bottom of the 750, I've done a series of those, so there are common nav versions of those, because in this panel, or one of the panel sets where they don't have any GPS and it's just Navcom radios, then it uses all of those, so a couple of comms, a couple of navs, an ADF and a transponder. So I think there's 6 of those in that panel. So yeah, quite a nice selection of those. I'm just gonna use the autopilot to come down here. See, that's the gear warning there. I've just backed off the power a bit too much. So you can see we're getting a red warning light in the gear handle there, and we have a silence button there, so we can silence that if we want to ignore that. But I think we will actually put the gear down. And we have 3 green lights. And yeah, the rest of the stuff we pretty much spoke about, all the individual engine gauges and the autopilot functions. You can see those enunciations I was talking about at the beginning now on those little sort of letterbox strips there, just letting you know what autopilot mode you're in. So we are just going to turn the autopilot off here. I said we were only going to go around the corner, just relocating this aircraft. Just so we can have a look at the panels. Looks like we've got a reasonable amount of runway here. Oh, way too fast, huh? We will have an extra stage of flaps. Help us with that. Quite a bit of turbulence, I can feel it. And there we are. Nice little play with the King Air panels. Obviously a lot more capable, there's lots more functions on there that you can explore and play around with, ILS approaches and whatnot, and messing around with the pressurization system, climbing up to altitude, which is kind of really what the King Air is designed to do, not the short little flight like I just did there. But you kind of get the gist of what we've got there in terms of the panels. You'll see all the pictures for all the different panel variants in terms of what they look like up on the store page when it goes live. So yeah, hopefully won't be too long now, and this one should hopefully make its way into the store as well fairly soon. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the panel showcase, and I'll see you again soon for another video of something interesting, hopefully. Thanks again. Bye.